Hey y'all, Sherry G. Welcome to the channel. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. To everyone, please don't forget to hit the like button. Even if you're not a subscriber, hit the like button just to say hello. Let's be polite. And to all of the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day to you again. I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful day. I had a fabulous weekend. As you know, my daughter took me on a surprise yesterday, and it was actually a vintage train ride. It was great. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. You know, I'm a planner, so I like to kind of know things, but I'm so glad that she did this. It was really great to be surprised. And so I think I'm going to get into the spontaneity of life, if that's a thing. Starting to do more spontaneous things, just jump out there and do things. But anyway, I'm going to be reviewing this past episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville, episode 6. And this particular episode picks up with Mel visiting Tiffany. She wants to check in on her after the spa day debacle because things got pretty heated between she and Kiki at the spa. So being that Tiffany is pregnant, Mel's just a little concerned about how she might be doing. So when she gets there, they begin chatting, and Tiffany does reveal that particular incident made her blood pressure go up. I just want to say, Tiffany, you know you're pregnant. You know that these types of things could cause your blood pressure to go up, even if you're not pregnant. Tiffany just needs to do a better job at understanding the people in the room. When she first came on the show, I understand that she didn't know anybody, and we know that she's going to be the one to throw the bones. She's going to ask those questions and take those jabs. And she did a horrible job of reading the room before. Now that she knows everybody, she should be able to read the room a lot better, but she's still not doing that. I feel like this season she's going extra hard. And I don't know if it's the hormones or what it is, but pregnancy really isn't an excuse. She needs to have some control. She needs to read the room better. And she just needs to back down and sometimes just back off. She needs to learn that. But anyway, the ladies begin to talk, and Mel tells her that she's going to have this tea and she would like her to come, that they're going to have an etiquette coach there, and that the etiquette coach is going to be doing a communication piece to hopefully help the ladies move forward when there's conflict in their communication. So Tiffany agrees to go. She's excited about it. And then this is where Mel shares with Tiffany about Mariah's birthday party, and she lets her listen to the recording between Mariah and Martell talking when Martell actually says that he's not going to pick Mariah up after all until Monday. So anyway, I'm not going to belabor the point as far as or I'm not going to elaborate is a better way to put it. I'm not going to elaborate on this particular segment in this video anymore because I've already done that, and I hit all of the major bullet points on this in a prior video, my last video. So if you haven't heard that, go ahead and check it out and you can hear my take on this particular segment. So moving on, the next segment is Maurice and Kimmy. They're at home in the kitchen and they begin discussing discipline issues with Maurice Jr. I believe his name is Maurice Jr. I hate calling him Monster. First of all, because of his age. Second of all, it just seems kind of daunting given the recent disciplinary issues that they're having with him. It just doesn't mesh well with me. So I'm just going to call him Maurice Jr. Again, like I said, I believe that is his name. Anyway, Kimmy expresses her frustration as it seems that when she is trying to discipline Maurice Jr., he doesn't get it or he won't listen. Or even if she tells him to clean his room, she'll look and his room isn't clean. And she's just really not sure how to go with the disciplinary piece of it because, as she stated to Maurice, it's kind of hard being the the bonus parent, because you don't want to do anything that the other parent wouldn't do. So she doesn't want to do anything to cause an abrasive situation between she and Kiowa. She wouldn't want to discipline him in a way that Kiowa wouldn't discipline him, to just make sure that all the discipline is consistent and things like that. However, Maurice insists that she just needs to get tougher with him because he's having his own issues when it comes to disciplining Maurice Jr. So, anyway, they go back and forth about that. And somehow, in Maurice's mind, he seems to think that Kimmy's real issue is with Kiowa. But Kimmy abruptly states that her issue isn't with Kiowa, her issue is with Maurice. The issue is because he doesn't back her. She doesn't feel like he partners with her when it comes to the co-parenting, especially as it pertains to the disciplinary piece. That he should be there to reinforce what she says. So, in other words, if she asks Monster to, I'm sorry, Maurice, now that I said I'm not going to say Monster, I'm probably going to say Monster. So forget it. Whatever I call him, I call him. And I don't mean that to be derogatory. It just, anyway, it is what it is. So anyway, when it comes to disciplining their son, she feels that he isn't partnering with her on that aspect, that he needs to be more supportive of her and reinforce what it is that she's asking him to do. For instance, if she asks him to clean his room, then Maurice should be there to reinforce it if he sees that he hasn't cleaned his room. That is not for her to get tougher. But suddenly Maurice just decides, you know what, let me call Kiowa and get her take on this. So they begin to explain to Kiowa what's going on. Kimmy explains her side, Maurice explains his side. But as it turns out, the ladies are in agreement. They both agree. And Maurice gets kind of frustrated with them. And he says, look, ladies, we can just agree to disagree, and hangs up the phone. I feel that Kimmy and Maurice have some major communication problems in their marriage, especially when it comes to big things. Because as we've seen in the past with these two, Maurice just makes decisions and kind of, Kimmy's just there to kind of like just deal with it. Like, this is the decision I made and you just have to deal with it. And I feel like that's how it's going to go with disciplining his son. It's just going to be this the way it is. Either you get tougher. I really don't know how to discipline him myself. And I feel like his lack of being able to be there for his son, being able to discipline his son, allegedly, and in my opinion, parlays back to his experience with his own dad as a child. His father actually stated that he wasn't there. He worked all the time. So I believe that his childhood experiences are so embedded in him that he doesn't know how to be anything different. What he experienced as a child was the father wasn't there. The mother was always there. So by default, she was the disciplinary. And even if perhaps the father made the rule, the mom was the one who was there to enforce it. And can you imagine? I think there were like several children in the home. So her basically being a single parent, basically being left alone to discipline all of these children, it had to be tough sometimes. And I really feel that that has a lot to do with his inability to parent his child, to be there for his son, just to be have a relationship, a real relationship with his father. I actually, in my opinion, believe that's some of what's playing out in Maurice Jr.'s behavior. So anyway, we shall see what happens with that. But again, like I said, I just believe that Maurice is so enslaved to his own childhood experiences. His mom always being there. She had to do everything. And it just seemed like in that home, the mom was the leader. The dad made the money, but the mom was really the leader. And so I feel that that's the same thing that's happening in his relationship, even with Kimmy. that Kimmy is the leader. She's behind, pushing everything and leading and guiding from the back, while Maurice stands there and and looks good because, in my opinion, she does a lot to kind of protect Maurice. So like she can be very verbal, as we saw in this particular segment. She was very verbal, but she tends to fall back. She tends to kind of fall back, and she just gives into his whims, his wishes, and his ways. But anyway, moving on to the next piece. It's Stormy and Kiki, and they meet for Reiki, which is a practice of getting your chakras cleared or getting your energy cleared. And I'm not going to expound on the practice itself or even Kiki's question regarding mixing it with spirituality and things like that, because this segment was really short and it was chopped up. And to expound on that and how I personally feel about that, that's a different show for a different day. So we're just not going to do that here, because I know that people were going in and voicing how they feel and all their opinions about that. But there's just so much to be said about it. And like you said, this is not the time or the place for all of that. However, in my opinion, I feel that Stormy actually needs a different type of healing, because meditation and Reiki don't appear to be working on her, as she is so easily bothered, and she pops off and she goes from 0 to 100 in a matter of seconds. So I don't think any of this is working for her at all. And my opinion, allegedly, I think she could actually use some counseling, something a little bit different. She needs to take a different avenue and get down to the root of what her real issues are. It's one thing to kind of clear energy out, but you got to get down to the root of your issues. So anyway, it becomes about maintaining your energy after that. But anyway, moving on. Her and Kiki begin to talk, and then they try to sort of form a bond. And Kiki tells her that she can kind of see how they are similar in their personalities and the way they like to communicate, like dropping F bombs and things like that. And I can kind of see that, but I'm just kind of wondering where this relationship is going to go. So now I'm a little bit side eyeing them both. I do believe that this episode, Kiki held her own with Tiffany, and we'll get into that later. But I am kind of side eyeing the relationship with her and Stormy, because allegedly, in my opinion, Stormy's kind of sneaky. And so I'm just not really feeling this. But anyway, Kiki goes on to tell Stormy that she isn't ghetto. So she's kind of smoothing it over with Stormy. And I just wonder in the back of my mind, is she kind of scared of Stormy? I don't know. That's just kind of like the impression I get. Let me smooth this over with her, because we do have some similarities. So my opinion is, yeah, they may have some similarities in the way they communicate. However, Kiki knows how to pull back. She has a level of decorum about her that Stormy absolutely lacks, and that she could actually learn from Kiki if they do become friends. I actually also feel, it's my opinion, that Kiki is mature enough. She's much more mature than Stormy, in the fact that she knows how to pull back. And Stormy just goes on like a bulldog. So anyway, we'll see what happens with their relationship. Like I said, I'm kind of side eyeing the two of them right now and wondering where this is going to go. So we shall see. The next segment is Maurice and Martell. Martell pulls up at Credit One, and it looks like there's some remodeling going on there. And as they're talking, they begin talking, and Martell tells Maurice all of these M's. Martell tells Maurice, all of the things that he has going on. Financially, he's doing better. And then Maurice puts in a plug, I guess, to let us know that he's still working at Credit One. This is how I take it, and this is just my opinion. But he says, yeah, I see that your credit score is going up. And then Martell says something about, oh, yeah, 100%. Okay. I guess he put in a plug trying to say that I still work at Credit One. Credit One is still working. I'm still doing this. I'm actually helping Martell. But anyway, as they begin to talk, Maurice kind of gives Martell some advice around co-parenting because, he's asking him how he's doing. And then Martell tells him that, him and Melody just aren't on the same page when it comes to co-parenting. He tells him everything that happens at the birthday party as far as him not being invited and Mel wanting to call the police, but it leaves out a lot of pertinent details. He didn't tell him about how volatile he was in the vestibule and how he got in Miss Van's face. He didn't tell him that he wasn't invited to the birthday party. He told him nothing about the court order that said, Mel has her on this particular day. This is a part of her 7 days. This is the day that she's supposed to have him. He didn't tell him that allegedly he petitioned to court to have Mariah taken away on her birthday. So left out all of that. But I also want to say that how in the world can Maurice give anybody advice on how to discipline their child when he just stated to his own wife that he's having difficulty disciplining his child? And I'm sorry, it's not about disciplining, it's about co-parenting. But Kimmy lives right in the house with you and you're having issues co-parenting with the wife who lives in the house with you. So how can you give advice to Martell on how to co-parent with Melody? I call hogwash. Anyway, the next scene is the tea party. Okay, so this next segment is the tea party, and I must say the ladies looked beautiful. All of the colors, the outfits. Mel looked especially beautiful. I love that the outfit she had on and the colors. But overall, everyone really, really looked nice. I love seeing Nell there. I kind of missed Miss Van. I know that she doesn't live in Huntsville, and I'm not sure how far away she lives because I remember seeing her on an interview once, and she mentioned that she didn't live there, and I forgot what the distance was. So maybe she just couldn't be there, but I just think it would have been really nice to see her there. I feel that this particular segment was once again heavily edited because it just, some of the things and the way people were saying things, like it just didn't really make sense. Um, Nell kind of started things off by saying that the energy among the ladies in the room fell off. So it kind of feels like maybe something perhaps happened that we missed. But anyway, she was saying that the energy among the ladies, it just seemed off to her. And she was wondering what it was. And then I forgot exactly how it was worded, but I believe Melody may have asked her, well, what do you think is off or something like that. But anyway, Nell actually says the energy between you and Stormy. And then Stormy's mom, Betty, Betty's going to have to go there and just show her behind, right? So anyway, she says, is it the energy between Stormy and Mel, or is it Stormy's mother? And Nell says, I don't know Stormy's mother. And then she says, I'm Stormy's mother. And then she begins to talk and explain herself and what have you. Stormy interrupts. And anyway, the etiquette coach later tells that Stormy, that she was rude for doing that. And she goes, yeah, I know, but I wanted to get my words out before I forgot what I was going to say. Stormy's just rude. And like I said before, it doesn't matter that she does meditation practices, Reiki practices, whatever spiritual practices she calls herself doing, just absolutely isn't working. She and Betty both, allegedly, in my opinion, need some deeper work because they have some deeper issues. But anyway, it seems that Betty can't make up her mind why she doesn't like Mel. She just needs to just say, I don't like Mel, period, and I can't figure it out. Because when she was on the interview with Carlos King, she stated that she didn't like Mel because Mel agreed with her that Chess had some disciplinary issues that needed to be addressed. And now in this particular segment, she's saying that she doesn't like Mel because of the way she handled that whole thing about the secret tape and how Mel tweeted that, someone secretly recorded her saying things about Martell. And she was upset that Mel did not defend Stormy and that Mel didn't go out and say to the world that it wasn't Stormy who did the tweet, when Stormy could have defended herself. I mean, she's always out there, whenever something happens, and she's always out there trying to clear the air. So why couldn't Stormy just defend herself? Like, Stormy doesn't need a babysitter, Betty. And if Betty felt that it wasn't Stormy, why didn't she do it herself? But anyway, that's just neither there here nor there. It's just that Stormy just, I don't know, between her and her mom, there's just some real serious issues going on. And I really feel like Betty has this deep seated, I'm just going to say allegedly, hate towards Mel. And I feel that all of that is fed through her friendships with Peggy, the lady named Peggy, and Wanda, allegedly, and in my opinion. So I feel like they just sit and they just keep this thing going between them. So it's like a sore that just festers. It has a disease, it's infected, and it's just growing and growing and growing because they feed off of one another. So, she doesn't know why she doesn't like Mel. She just doesn't like her. So anyway, enough of Betty. I'm glad we didn't see that much of her in this particular segment. But Kiki and Tiffany then began to air out their issues because Tiffany says, I'm sorry, Kiki says that she has something that she wants to air out with Tiffany because this whole session is about allowing the ladies to air out whatever issues they are having with each other, but to be able to communicate in a respectable way where all of the energy is not towards each other, but directed towards the problem and getting to a resolution. But anyway, Tiffany and Kiki get into it, and this is where Kiki is actually schooling Tiffany on the fact that there is a difference between knowing someone and knowing of someone. And again, I actually did some commentary on this piece in an earlier video. It's the same video I did with the telephone call between Maurice and Martell. So you can check out my last video to get some more detailed commentary on that. But I just want to say that in this particular segment, I'm so glad that Kiki was able to hold her own, and that Tiffany really needs to learn how to read the room. She really, really does. She needs to understand that the issues between Kiki and Tisha are their issues, and she doesn't need to be in between that because they are family. They need to work it out. Her dealing with you has nothing to do with the way she may deal with her family member because their relationship goes back for years and years and years, and there's a lot that has to be uncovered there. So you just can't assume that just because I may treat my family member a certain way, or there may be a certain rift between us, that you and I are going to have the same issues. You just can't assume that. There's a history behind it, and there's just a lot more that has to be uncovered and unraveled in between there. But like I said, this scene just was really, really chopped up, and it just seemed to be disoriented. There was like the lack of transition because there's this one young lady sitting there. Actually, there's two young ladies sitting there. We have no clue who they are. One, I believe, is Nell's daughter, and the other one, there's some confusion. Like, some are saying that it's Ariane's friend, and others are saying that it's Tisha's hairdresser. I don't know if they're one and the same, but we have no idea who these people are. Like, they just showed up at the tea party, and there was no explanation, like who they were, how they got to be there. There wasn't an introduction. And so that's one of the things that are a struggle with this particular season. That's one of the things that the viewers in general are struggling with, is that where's the transition? Where are these people coming from? And that's why the scenes seem to be more fake than real. And another thing about this particular segment, the tea party, is that Tisha was as quiet as a church mouse. Like, she was smirking and things like that. She was quiet as a church mouse, so I don't really know what was going on with Tisha, except maybe it had something to do with the young lady that was there with her, whether that is Ariane's friend or her hairdresser. Like, we really still don't know. At least I don't know. But if you guys know, let me know. I'm totally confused about that. But all in all, I'm glad to see that Kiki was able to stand up for herself in this particular segment. I'm glad to see that she was actually able to shut Tiffany down as they were going back and forth. And Tiffany was insisting that, no, I don't know you, I know of you. And Kiki went on to explain, no, you know my mother-in-law, you had conversations with her. We actually sat down at a table together, because there was a point when Tiffany said, well, we've never even sat down at a table together and had a friendly conversation. And Kiki was like, no, we did sit down. And so they actually did a flashback that I don't think we ever even saw in any episode, where Tiffany and Kiki and Mel were sitting down, and this is when Tiffany was on a search to find out who her biological father was, and Kiki was trying to set her up with resources to make that happen. But then Tiffany goes back and says to Kiki, well, did you follow up? And Kiki says, it's not my dad. It wasn't up to me to follow up. And this is where Kimmy really got on my nerves, because she was bucking up saying, no, no, listen to her. Listen to what she's asking you. She's asking you if you followed up. And she just kept going on. And I just wanted to say, Kimmy, shut up. Use that same energy when you're dealing with Maurice. Like, I feel like a lot of the times Kimmy's vibrato comes from her deflecting what is going on in her own relationship, because when she's with Maurice, she does speak up, but at the same time she then backs down and accept whatever it is that he throws at her, and she deals with it. So I feel that when she's in instances like this, sometimes people see her as like the calm, or the moderator, or the mediator, or something like that. But I feel like she spews out some vibrato sometimes, which is just a deflection of the conflict that she's feeling internally from her relationship with Maurice. But anyway, that's my take on that. Oh, and then one thing that Kiki does is she throws out this dig, and she says to Tiffany, and it kind of throws Tiffany back, and it throws everybody off. She says to Tiffany, oh yeah, and by the way, I do know who my real father is. And no one knows where that came from. And then this is where Kimmy really, really gets upset, because it stated that, that was a dig. And Kiki's explained, no, I didn't mean it as a dig. And if you took it as a dig, I apologize, but it absolutely wasn't a dig. Kiki, it absolutely was a dig. It was a dig, girl. It was a dig, whether you meant it to be a dig or not. And no one knows where that came from. Like, why did she say that to her? I absolutely know who my dad is. But anyhow, that's all I have for you for today. I will be back with more commentary. There's been a lot of things that has happened and taken place this weekend, including, some tweets that went out by Mel, and there were the interview with Martell and Carlos King. And I have some thoughts about that too. So anyway, that's it for today. If you haven't done so, hit the like button, please. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell, because I will be back. Until then, ciao.